what the ad model is. And back in, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, there was a really interesting story about TargetCast in, not TargetCast, excuse me, about Tumblr. It's this thing that starts with a T. Where they were actually talking about not only their ad model, but they were actually talking about something that I think has sort of plagued the digital advertising industry to one degree or another for a very long time, which is creativity. And you could argue in some corners that like digital media and creativity are an oxymoron. Maybe that's too harsh. But Tumblr is one of those platforms that's really visual. And when you think of how things are today with Pinterest and even the new MySpace. Did anybody check out the new MySpace? The thing that really jumps out at you is how visual it is and how visual a lot of the platforms that we're seeing these days really are. And so it's kind of time to take a new look at them. So our guest here is another guy named Steve from TargetCast. For those of you in the main stage, this is what I think he's the better Steve.
By far.
Yeah,
by far, yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Even though he reports probably to the other Steve.
I certainly do.
Yeah, but he's the president of Interactive Marketing at TargetCast, and you lead everything, don't you? Search engine marketing, interactive creative technology services, and all forms of digital marketing, including video everywhere, social media, and mobile marketing.
I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and he's also, strangely, he's also a member of the 4-H Privacy Committee. That wasn't the punchline I was expecting. So please give him a round of applause. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So thanks for attending, guys. I appreciate you coming. It's almost like we'll have some individual attention here, some one-on-one time, which is really nice. Just as I start off, by show of hands, if you could, how many people here are on Tumblr? Okay, just a few, and that's actually what I expected. Tumblr's been around for quite a while. I don't work for Tumblr, obviously. I don't sell for them, but I'm always with my nose into the interactive space, looking for new technologies, new targeting capabilities, different platforms, and they really do offer something that's unique. There's new news with them today, a lot of new news actually. And so we'll go over that. I'm going to start with some fundamentals and talk about traffic patterns and where they've come from. And then I'll actually break down their advertising model and give you some, at least my thoughts on a go or no-go if you're an advertiser or a media professional thinking about funding a campaign with them. To start though, and I always start my presentations this way, when I give these either keynotes or breakout sessions, I'm pretty active on Twitter, at Steve Mini, and for the company it's at TargetCast Talks. So if there are any follow-up questions, certainly this is a small group, we can talk today. But if you think about things down the road, or as you start to consider the use of Tumblr, if you want my opinion on something, you can always reach out to me here. So that's a great way to get in touch with me. So let's talk a little bit about Tumblr, certainly. And we're going to start in an odd place. Tumblr is really a media darling, and it's in the write-up for this kind of discussion today. But it's always thought of in the best light. Users are really, really connected to it. And so now that they've launched their ad platform, what is this going to mean for marketers, for media professionals, but just as important, what is it going to mean for the people that have been using Tumblr for quite a while, for years even, and how are they going to feel as advertising now starts to penetrate a space that's been almost sacred for their creativity? It's definitely a unique culture, and as they bill it, follow the world's creators. I mean, talk about a lofty level to live up to. It is a very creative platform, but you really see such a connection from the consumers that have been using it for a while with how they almost fiercely protect the space and how they're really into it. And we'll talk about time per visit and unique traffic and things like that. But they do look at themselves as a unique, very different culture in the blogosphere. And we'll talk about that word blog as well. User engagement, without a doubt, we'll see in just a moment that time per session, it's pretty high. It's actually second to Facebook. And if you think about how many times people are on Facebook today, for Tumblr to support that type of minutes per session, that's quite incredible. And overnight success, not so much. And a lot of stories really have this kind of timeline. So to think that Tumblr's been around 4 or 5 years, and it's been a slow, steady build, slow and steady success, and you'll see, as we lay out traffic and as we lay out consumer usage, it actually tells a really nice story. From my personal opinion, it elevates the consideration to use their ad platform because of how it's grown over the years, and you don't see this immediate ramp up, which could mean it's here today and gone tomorrow. It has some staying power. But really, the whole conversation today is, should we consider Tumblr as a successful advertising medium? Should we throw advertising dollars at it? And what is it going to mean for our brands? What is it going to mean for our overarching interactive strategy and our marketing strategy? So we'll go deeper into it. So let's start to look at the data. And you know what? I like Compete and certainly ComScore. I think that Tumblr uses QuantCast to kind of justify some of their numbers. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy here or there in terms of what they're calling, unique traffic. I'm looking just at Tumblr.com. I'm not looking at an entire network within Tumblr. So just FYI, you'll see some numbers kind of bump up against each other, but it tells the right story. This is what I'm talking about in terms of a slow and steady growth rate. They started under 10 million. This is unique visitors per month, and now they're really continuing to climb. Some estimates, when you look at the Tumblr network, has them at 60 million uniques. QuantCast, for the same kind of poll, has them at about 30 or 35 million. That's just US. So when you look at WordPress, when Tumblr first came around, WordPress was very hot. They were grabbing a lot of headlines, a lot of consumer attention, a lot of attention from brand managers, from media professionals. But if you look at their traffic over a couple of years now, they've been in the same range. They haven't grown, they haven't declined, and you can really see just almost that even keel, steady traffic coming in. But to me, it bothers me a little bit that they're not continuing to grow. They're not changing their technology. They're not drawing more people in. It's a slow and steady, kind of even visitation. Pinterest is quite unique. So non-existent to very, very strong. When I flip the slide in just a moment, we'll talk about time on site. And it tells kind of an interesting story specifically with Pinterest. But certainly, they've been a success. They have a unique platform. It's a different way of communicating. And I do draw some parallels between the creativity and imagery that's seen on Tumblr and what ultimately you would see on Pinterest. And of course, Twitter. Now, Twitter's done a very nice job, in my opinion, over the years of building their follower base both domestically and internationally. I think that they've stumbled a bit with their advertising platform, but they've worked on it from month to month and quarter to quarter, and now they're coming closer to something that is a little bit more bug-free, user-friendly, user-initiated from the agency world as well. So I think they have a good thing going, and I like seeing that increase. Now, I could have really continued to build out this chart, but just to kind of throw a few numbers out there, of course, Facebook and YouTube, as far as Compete is concerned, 160, 150 million uniques per month just coming to their homepage. Really, really leaders in the space, both domestic and internationally. I will say, it's tough to find a number unless you're on Wall Street that talks against, what Facebook is ultimately doing, connecting with consumers, frequency of visitation, even time on site. But we tend to look a little bit deeper and look at alternative platforms from which to really highlight our advertisers' message a little bit more. And Instagram, I chose to leave them off the scale as well. Instagram right now, from Compete numbers, they're reporting about 11 million views, but they have a slightly different platform in terms of being very mobile heavy. So they're doing a good job, and I see continued growth there, especially with the association now, with Facebook. But today we're talking Tumblr. So let's talk a little bit about time per visit. And I started before with Tumblr here. We'll talk about WordPress. Again, no change. It's the same story with their traffic patterns. It honestly is a little bit disappointing for how much hype they had and how much focus there was on the ease of use, their switch in and out templates, and their customization. You would hope to see that kind of WordPress network continue to grow a little bit, but it's really been flatlined. Then you go back to Twitter and you start to see them creeping up a little bit more in terms of minutes per session. And I think as it becomes ubiquitous and more people really become comfortable with Twitter and get their news from Twitter, you'll continue to see this roll. This worries me a little bit. So this is the Pinterest line, and where you saw the traffic really spike and grow pretty quick, to see time per visit, quickly scale as well, but then drop off a bit. I'm wondering how much staying power Pinterest will ultimately have as the years roll on, as we go into 2013. Are people really just considering it a bright, shiny object right now in terms of consumers and their interest in it? Are they into it for now? Will it stick for a year? Will it stick for a couple of years? What I really like is that Tumblr has been around for a while, and right now, outside of Facebook, Facebook is about 18 minutes. Tumblr's second in terms of minutes per visit, and they've been around for years. That's very encouraging for me as a media professional, as somebody looking into the technology space on a regular basis and thinking about at least our brand's advertising dollars and where to invest. That their slow and steady build of usage and their minutes per session continuing to hold firm tells a very good story. Throughout, this is such a small group. If you guys do have questions and you want to ask questions throughout, feel free to throw them out there. Or, you can certainly wait till the end. Either way. And she has a microphone. So I did pull some visuals from Tumblr's presentation. And the next few slides really talk about how they present themselves. There are 63 million Tumblr blogs. That's quite incredible. They're talking about 64 million U.S. unique monthly visits. And I'm not sure if that's just the homepage or they're looking more at the network. I feel it's their Tumblr network. That's where they're getting to this critical mass. And this is a Quantcast number. 60 million new posts every day. It's quite staggering. And 18 billion page views. In talking about how people are consuming this technology, this blogging platform, it's really robust. People are really into it. And if you look at how many new users they're kind of registering every day, to think about over 100,000 new usage patterns or new logins or signups every day. Again, after 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, that says something that's quite incredible to me, that they do have staying power, and the more that they evolve their technology, hopefully if they do it in the right way, that will continue to grow and be more meaningful to the consumer. Demographic breakout, it's a little bit more female than male. And actually, when you look at the age breakout, they're doing a pretty good job, especially to the 50-plus target. They're over-indexing a little bit more than what you would see maybe on a Twitter or a Facebook, even though those properties are, very, very big, reach many, many people. Tumblr has a little bit of a different demographic skew, and again, that's another encouraging signal to me. Mobile penetration. So whereas Instagram has a lot of mobile usage, right? A lot of people just accessing Instagram on a regular basis on their mobile device, Tumblr's holding their own. 43 million visits, 814 million page views per month. That means to me that there's certainly a desktop application and a usage platform from desktop or laptop, but that additional screen, people are connected to Tumblr as well on the go, and that means a lot for the brand. Right now, their advertising model does not support mobile, but that'll be the next thing they kind of bring in line. So I thought a lot about whether to include this or not. Here's our fearless CEO, David Karp, and he's an incredible guy. He's got a very interesting background, but certainly to be the founder and CEO of this organization and have been running it, for a few years now, and now launching an ad platform. These are very interesting times for him, and he's certainly evolving as a leader. But I did decide ultimately to put this in. A few years ago, he was quoted as saying, advertising really, he doesn't connect to it. It doesn't mean as much to him. He was really almost protective of his Tumblr community because he didn't have an ad-supported technology. And he really saw Tumblr continuing to grow and really be meaningful for the consumer base. This year, he pulled back on that, and of course he did, right? Because now he's got this ad model, and he needs to go out and basically, fix his prior statement. But this is okay, you live and learn, right? And especially as CEO of a powerful social media vehicle, this won't be his first misstep. But it's one that, he's doing a good job of explaining his earlier comment. Advertising for advertising's sake and just to push it out there without meaning, without it being relevant, being honest and true to form. That's what he was historically talking about. At least that's his quote today. The way that the advertising vehicle has launched today is a little bit off-center from these explanation remarks, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But the point is, as the year rolls on and as the technology and the ad serving platform continues to evolve, it's going to get deeper and deeper into this protected consumer environment, and his ability to explain what his plans are, what his vision will be for Tumblr as a whole. It's going to be really important that he articulate that very well. So I started to think about how many advertisers right now have brand pages. As an agency, we have a few agency pages on Tumblr. I have a few accounts myself. I created a dummy account just for illustrative purposes today. But you know what? When you think about advertisers and what they're doing on Facebook and what they're doing on Twitter, it's such a low scale using Tumblr. Forget about the ad model. Just taking out a Tumblr page and using a Tumblr page for all the creativity that it offers, it's pretty low. It's just a few, they're big advertisers, but it's just a few advertisers when you compare the two. So I started to ask myself and challenge myself and my team, why do you think that is? And so we thought about how media professionals inform themselves, how a brand manager challenges himself or herself to get educated or kind of push the envelope in terms of the questions that he or she would ask or the strategies that are being set for a brand from year to year. It's not to say that Tumblr doesn't secure its fair share of headlines, but when you compare it to a Facebook, to a Pinterest, to a Twitter, it's so much less, so much less. And maybe things will change a little bit now that they've launched their ad platform. But I think that has a lot to do with how the media community and even the brand managers or client side advertising community considers Tumblr, and when they choose to ask questions about it, it's very infrequent that you would see it in the press when compared to some of its closest competition. I think that this is a big point, but I do think that this is something that will change in the fourth quarter and as we get into 2013. There's something else as well in terms of how Facebook is positioned, how YouTube is positioned, and Twitter. Even on this slide, you'll see at the top, right underneath the CNN logo, you'll see a share this with Twitter, a share this with Facebook, and you see the YouTube icon everywhere. You rarely see that Tumblr icon, and I think that also limits how media people talk to each other, or what they consider, or when they should consider Tumblr as an add-on or within that social media strategy. The fact that they just don't have this ubiquitous presence, that means a lot to the brand, but that's something else, the brand being Tumblr. That's something else that I think will change as the months roll on, especially with this advertising platform. And also Twitter has become so popular, and we all know this in the room today, that any reporter, any celebrity, right underneath their picture is their name and what they do and their Twitter feed. And I did it to open up this presentation, which I think is no mistake. So the fact that it's everywhere, and people know that they have to be there from a brand standpoint and from an advertiser standpoint. I think that really makes a big difference, and I think that's one of the reasons why Twitter has flown under the radar to some extent. There's something interesting, and I'm not the first person to do this analysis either. When you run Google's technology to look at how people have been searching over the last certain period of time, when you compare search terms for blog and for Tumblr, you're starting to see the two dissect. And certainly when people are thinking about blogging, they're thinking about Blogger, they're thinking about WordPress and the written word. But now I think you see this evolution of Tumblr starting to take on a life of its own and being strongly connected to that of the blog. And that's something that is really, really powerful from an advertiser standpoint or a media professional to see how consumers now are taking this upon themselves to connect the dots, to connect the two. It's not to think that down the road consumers will replace Tumblr with the word blog, but they're thinking of them together. That's a pretty powerful thing, especially where they are right now. So this is a very important point in terms of how consumers are changing their preference and even their mindset in terms of how they think of Tumblr. So let's look at the advertising platform a little bit. It's pretty nice, I have to say. So this is their radar unit. When somebody logs into their dashboard, they're going to see their feed, they're going to see their posts and some things that they can do to edit a post or put a new post up. Let's see if I can do this, yes, right here. This is the navigation channel, but right here, this is going to be the radar unit. What I really like about it, the feed is very linear and it scrolls nicely and you can see all the people that you're following and the things that are interesting to you. But in this radar unit, there's very few other graphical areas that call out to the consumer to grab attention. Instead of being able to buy as an advertiser 100% share voice, they do it on a very polite rotation. So maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 10 different visuals that will flow into this radar unit will actually be advertiser supported. I like that. I like the fact that it is polite, and I think that it fits the culture that's on Tumblr now, this very creative, very protective culture that's been existing on Tumblr for quite a while. It's not too intrusive, and it's done in the right way. Once you initiate or click on this visual, you will go over to, in this case, it's Burberry, their customized page on Tumblr, and flip through, what they have to say about themselves, or different imagery, or some other different type of call to action. But it stays within Tumblr, and that's something important that I'll touch on in just a moment. And you can navigate certainly back and forth pretty easy between an advertiser-supported call-out and your general feed. The other area that they're selling right now as an advertising platform is their Spotlight. So typically, right down here, the Spotlight feed would show other people's Tumblr feeds or other people's blogs, other consumers right within this area. They have a nice big area for the Spotlight, and this is sold in tandem with the radar unit. And again, it's a nice rotation. It's done in a very polite way. They have a nice call out here to say that this is ad supported with a little $sign. So again, it's very transparent to say that this is a little bit different than what you're used to seeing on Tumblr. And we'll see what the feedback is as this continues to evolve. So those are the two main units. I pulled a page from my Tumblr. This is me with my wonderful dog Oreo out in the Hamptons. But right here, after this post, I can check this box if I want and spend $5 or spend $2 ultimately to pin my post if I wanted to the top of my followers' feed. So instead of it getting lost in the shuffle in the feed, I could pin an important post so it's the first post they see as soon as they log in. It's pretty cheap to do so. But I don't really see this as a big brand or advertiser-supported initiative on Tumblr. I see this almost as secondary for a local community, a community organizer, if somebody has an event, a concert, a local band, or something like that within a community in a certain geography to kind of bring attention to it. It doesn't seem like it would be in that kind of national scale or national audience. It's more to a specific geography just to call out quick attention. So those are the three areas right now that are being monetized by Tumblr. And I think they're doing a good job to launch it, but there's a couple of watch-outs. So first, the economics behind this. It's about $25K, a very low cost of entry. They have different packages for $50K, $100,000, but they're always going to be in rotation. So the $25,000 package is 5% of impressions over 24 hours. If you go all the way up to what I think they call their mega package, it's about 100,000 that's served over 90 days. Again, I like the fact that it's quite polite. The ads are in rotation, they're blended with user content, and they're clearly marked as advertising. Again, transparency is always important, especially with a group that's this connected to the platform. It's pretty interesting that they've set it up in a certain way that, and Tumblr is set up in a certain way that you could reblog, you could follow, you could like, but in terms of the commentary, it really protects the marketer. So what do I mean by that? If you push out a paid advertising program on Twitter or on Facebook, you're really putting your brand out there for anybody to say they love it or they hate it. They can comment immediately. I had a horrible experience with this brand. It didn't fulfill, my needs, or I thought I was getting a good deal, but it was terrible quality, whatever it may be. Here, the consumer interaction is just these three: to reblog it to their feed, to follow it, or to like it. And I think there's a bit of protection. Will it always be that way? Maybe not. But for right now, it certainly is. So I see these as a positive. Some things that I have to raise my eyebrows a little bit to, the ads are served to everyone. So as a marketer, if I want to serve just to the females on Tumblr, I can't do it. At least I don't believe you can do it, and as of the last update that I received, it's to everybody. Limited metrics. You can get how many people reblogged it, how many people liked it, just very, very specific, but not as deep as we've come accustomed to with Facebook, with Twitter, with standard online advertising, with search. It's very limited in terms of what it delivers. But again, to cut them a break a little bit, they're just rolling out now, and I know that this is certainly an area that they'll look to evolve. There are no click-aways, meaning you can't click that radar unit and go to your web page or go to your Facebook page. You have to stay on Tumblr. Once you get to the Tumblr page, you can click away. But they're really trying to control the experience and keep their consumers within the platform. And again, the connection to mobile, right now, it's non-existent, but I know that they'll quickly change that. So I think that the cost of entry is pretty unique and not that expensive, certainly for the interest and the visibility that this will have. But there are some things that I think they have to develop a little bit more. When I'm thinking about the users that are on Tumblr, people can be creative, certainly in many, many different ways. There are people that are creative with the written word, and they love to write about their opinion, their position, counter positions to other people's thoughts or concepts in market, or whatever channel they're kind of talking about. That written word means everything to them. With Tumblr, it's very visual, and we know this. It's very into the look, the feel, what does the image portray, and how does that connect to a thought or an idea. This is going to be really important as they start to insert more and more advertising, paid advertising into the platform. So what do I mean by this? Certainly anytime you read the trades or, mainstream media, if Facebook makes an adjustment to their timeline, to their ad platform, half the people, more than half the people, can't stand it. They despise it. They talk about it. It's written about. It's certainly talked about on Facebook and tweeted about. They suffer almost from their own success because they launched in the same way. If you think way back, they had no advertising, and now they have a lot of advertising. Even, everybody in this room, I'm sure, knows about this conversation of GM pulling their Facebook ads because they said it didn't work, and it didn't meet their expectation for the KPIs that they've set. You've seen some advertisers say Facebook is very successful for what they're using it for. But my point is, there's tons of press around their ad model. I'm sure you could find it, but just by doing a little research, you'll see that Twitter, for the most part, Twitter users have said their ad model is okay. It's not bad. I don't see as much complaining, if you will, about how they've evolved their paid ad model. For what Tumblr has and for how their users have consistently used it, their time on site has grown, the traffic has continued to grow. This is going to be a really challenging time. This next quarter, maybe this next half year for Tumblr, as they continue to insert paid advertising, you could see their user base, if it's done poorly, almost being offended, rejecting the advertising. So it's something that I could certainly see the benefits of this and the cachet of being a first mover. The price point is not that steep. But it's something that you certainly have to watch if you're representing a brand, if you're in media, if you're on the client side. It's something that you have to watch to see how the consumer population on Tumblr is receiving your brand message, what they're doing with it, how they're interacting with it, because they could be resistant, certainly. So just in wrapping up, and then maybe we can talk a little bit if there are questions. They certainly have the audience, and the audience continues to grow. Over 100,000 new users every day. More time on site than most of their competitors, with the exception of Facebook. They do have a different vibe. Again, this creative culture, this culture that is very close together. They have the same kind of mindset, and they love and embrace the creativity that Tumblr represents for them. To be first movers and to receive that added exposure as an advertiser, I think because, again, the monetary commitment is so limited, but to be a first mover and to get in there with the right type of message done in the right way that connects with the brand platform, there could be a lot of benefits. But really to keep a close eye on how they continue to evolve and enhance the technology platform. When are they going to connect to mobile? What will that mean for advertisers? How will that advertising or marketing message show up on a smaller screen. And ultimately, as the tracking and behavioral starts to evolve with the platform, that's something that everybody has to keep a close eye on. You know, and mentioned in my introduction, I do sit on the privacy committee, so I'm very close with, you know, what Facebook is doing, Twitter, YouTube, just in terms of behavioral targeting. There's a lot of media money there, certainly. And sooner or later, you know, Tumblr will realize the power that they have in terms of the cookie profiling. What they choose to do with that is going to be quite interesting. But if you do choose to be a first mover in terms of a brand or an advertising message, it's something to really keep a close eye on. Hopefully they'll get more press, there'll be more discussions, that Twitter icon will start to become more ubiquitous. I'm sorry, the Tumblr icon will become more ubiquitous just like Twitter. And it's something that will continue to scale and be in heavier consideration for advertisers, but it's certainly something that as an agency we're looking at. That's pretty much the conclusion of my slide. So if there are questions or you know, other topics that I can address, I'm certainly happy to do so.
So, do we have any questions at this point from you guys? You know, well, I wondered if you got any feel for what the breakout is of what kinds of brands you're seeing up there. You know, because you know the fashion brand, not surprising. It's like that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, but what other kinds of brands are you seeing up there?
It's heavy fashion, it really is, and just about every fashion advertiser has a Tumblr page because you know, the imagery is so important, it's so easy to customize and connect. But you'll see Adidas, you'll see Nike, there's a couple of technology companies, but it's predominantly dominated by fashion, the fashion vertical right now.
Yeah, I mean, do you get the feeling that they're just experimenting, basically, and just kind of fooling around because it's only 25K?
I think that a lot of people are taking that approach, without a doubt. You know, again, you know, when you have a $25,000 minimum investment, you can be a first mover, see what it means for your brand, and really shut it down pretty quickly if you feel like it has a negative vibe. There's not too much risk that you're associating with, but you do have to keep an eye on it. Anytime you are a first mover in a very protective kind of culture, it demands some of your attention. Certainly.
So I have tons of questions because I'm a reporter, so I'm going to ask another one if nobody has them. So if a client comes to you and says, Pinterest versus Tumblr, I know I didn't name a brand, I didn't name a category, so what would your discussion be? I mean, Pinterest obviously has done this thing, although it's very interesting to see that potentially it's doing that thing.
Yeah.
So how do you compare and contrast?
You know, it's at least for us, it's not an either or. We're trying to connect the right way with consumers in a voice that's honest and a voice that's relevant for them. And so, you know, for a certain brand or a certain category, Pinterest would make a bunch of sense, but I'm sure I could make a consideration for Tumblr as well. It wouldn't be an either or. It would actually be a benefit to build reach if you think about it this way, that you reach a certain audience on Pinterest, a certain audience on Facebook and Twitter with a different voice. And you would reach another unique portion of your target audience on Tumblr, albeit maybe a different way. So not an either or.
Yeah, so it's both, because they're both cheap, right? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, all of these vehicles are very low cost development. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, well, thank you. Please give Steve a round of applause.
Thanks very much.
So we have about 5 minutes till our next panel, so you can go to the bathroom now. Maybe a little less than that, but thank you.
Yeah. Wait, before you got here, we were at the end of Steve, and you had tweeted something, and it popped up like, oh, that's Claire.
We've spoken to Phil and just like keep What you do?
That would. They look. But no. So you're right. You have to go through
What are you doing? Oh.
But no, you did.
Oh, okay.
But like it's your music like nothing you can do.
Yeah. I know we're standing between like a panel and drinks, but we're all supposed to figure out the mobile social ad model. So we're gonna do it now, and then we'll get to the drinks, unless I can, get the bottles of wine in here, which Nihal, our moderator, yeah, right. So
I approve of that.
So anyway, obviously people have been kind of concerned about mobile social ad models, so we're going to solve it in here privately among us, and just don't tell anybody else. So I could go on and do like your entire bio, Nihal, but I won't. Our famous or infamous moderator is Nihal Mehta. He's the CEO and co-founder of LocalResponse. He's founded like a zillion companies, and I won't go into them all, but you should trust everything he says. And the same thing with all of our panelists. You should trust everything they say. So with that, please give them a quick round of applause, and we'll get going here.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. It's great to be here. We'll do a quick round of intros, probably a couple minutes. We have, these guys are all rock stars, by the way. So mobile social, literally, this is, we should close and lock the doors because this is like secret stuff. This is like, we're going to unlock like treasures and lots of different nuggets from amazing speakers. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Patrick Albano from Yahoo. I head up the social, mobile, and innovation groups. A lot of folks ask what social is at Yahoo, so I'll just give you 1 minute on that. We've done a lot of integrations with Facebook, and so the idea with how we work with brands is we typically curate content for brands and then make that really shareable through those integrations. And then the second piece is we try to really inspire people to engage with that content, which also inspires them to share, and then their friends discover that content. It's all around social content.
Great. Mark Binns, CMO for Mobio Technologies. We're a youth-oriented digital advertising network, but it's really a social platform where music stars exchange content with their fans, and we weave in the engagement and the relationship that they have by putting brands in the middle of it. So that's what Mobio does.
And I'm Jaindl, go by MJ. I'm the VP of Customers for Life, which is an awesome title that I got when we got acquired by Salesforce. Before that, I was the Chief Client Officer at Buddy Media up until 4 weeks ago when we closed the acquisition. And Buddy Media is focused on social media marketing, so we're the world leader in social media marketing. And then we've combined that with Radiant6, which is the world leader in social listening, to form Salesforce Marketing Cloud. We also have an ads platform that's fully integrated into our suite.
I'm John Simpson. I work at Blue State Digital, which is a full-service digital agency. We're roots in politics, but we currently work primarily with nonprofit organizations and advocacy groups, as well as brands and businesses. I head up the media team there, and we employ what we like to call an action-based planning approach, where we help clients figure out how to use digital to get people to do something.
I'm John Steinberg. I'm the president of BuzzFeed. We're the leading social publisher. 30 million people a month come to BuzzFeed looking for content to share. About 40% of our traffic is from Facebook, 40% of our traffic is mobile, so we think a lot about mobile social. And we create 3 kinds of content. We create shareable emotional content, fun, meaty kind of stuff. Scoops that are meant to be shared under our editor-in-chief, Ben Smith, and about 40 or 50 original writers that we have. And then we create branded content in conjunction with Fortune 500 brands and agencies that are meant to be shared as well. We don't run any banners because they don't work. They work even worse in mobile. So hopefully we can talk about that today.
Awesome. So Patrick, I just want to throw a question out real quick. At Yahoo, did you opt for the iPhone or the Android?
Yeah, that's a good question. I took the iPhone, and I'm enjoying the free food as well.
Very good. So I wanted to jump in by just kind of talking about some case studies. I feel like a lot of people talk about new business models. Mobile social, it feels so niche, right? And I think some people have maybe seen casually some ad units on Twitter or Facebook or any of these properties. But I'd love to just throw it to the panel. Can you talk about any specific brands or clients that have had positive or even negative experiences?
Yeah, what we've been trying to do in mobile is because you've got limited time with somebody, right? You only have it for a moment. You have limited space on the screen. We try to create these engagement points. So one of the most successful things we've done in our Sportacular app is we give people a simple choice to choose who they think is going to win a game. So last night the I chose the Giants. That was probably the wrong choice, but hundreds of thousands of people do this because they love their team, and then they end up sharing that. So when we put a brand around that engagement point, that brand gets the value of that kind of native discussion with the user, and then when their friends come back into that experience, their friends also experience that brand. So I think it's really about trying to be integrated into the experience, very simple and lightweight.
What was the brand? And we did that with Verizon last year across PC and mobile, and I can't share specific results of it, but like I said, hundreds of thousands of people do that on a weekly basis, so there's a huge amount of engagement, and now we're extending that same kind of concept to other properties within Yahoo.
Awesome. I can speak briefly about, what we constantly try to do across all of our clients is use media, which is primarily a push vehicle, as a way to translate into pull. And so, email is a great way for a political client or nonprofit organization to get a connection with somebody and then translate that into an ongoing relationship. The translation for that in mobile is SMS. More and more people are reading email on mobile devices. It's up to about 30% now, but in 2008 with the Obama campaign, SMS and mobile was their number one activation touch point for how they message people and got them to take action. So using everything from a huge TV spot during the Super Bowl to speeches and rallies to print media to mobile media as well, driving people to opt in to SMS, and then that became the ongoing touch point. So, and then they sort of translated that, or in SMS as the opportunity to become a social type of platform in and of itself, and then you can have a call and response with people and learn what their interests are, or where they are, what they want, what type of content they want to receive, and that becomes social inherently. It's not obviously on a social platform, but it was a social use of mobile. As many people know, that was how they actually announced Biden as the vice president. They had over 3 million people using SMS, and that's a list that you can then activate over the next 4, potentially 8 years.
I heard Romney tried to do something like that this year, but wasn't that successful.
I don't think you can have a mobile strategy. I think the whole idea of having a mobile strategy doesn't make a lot of sense. I was thinking on the way over here, it would almost like saying 15 years ago, like, what's your laptop strategy, right? And that's really what this is. Mobile usage is now for most publishers at 40%. I think it'll skyrocket in the next couple of years. The devices are getting faster and better. Everybody's going to consume web. They're going to consume their web, on whatever device they have. And ultimately, when we think about running a campaign, we think about creating content for brands, seeding that content, having a high engagement rate, being able to show that content gets earned media, gets shared, and then being able to measure the impact. How do minds move when people are exposed to GE content or Virgin mobile content as a result of a social exposure versus a paid exposure? And we try to show a lockstep movement in proclivity to buy and interest as a result of that content. But ultimately, we want the content to flow. We have a mobile web experience that formats perfectly as a feed. We allow people to share content from mobile device to desktop, desktop to device. So when someone comes to me and says, what's your mobile strategy, or what should our mobile strategy be? I say you just need to have a web strategy, and you really can't control that content. You need to make sure it just flows everywhere perfectly.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a great point. And just to kind of piggyback on that and talk about that for a second, I think we need to talk about what the building blocks are if we're talking mobile social ad strategy. So the first building block is creating your community and actually building your community and then engaging that community so you can actually get your message out to them. So, I'm sure everybody in this room knows about the Facebook algorithm, EdRank. It's the one that decides what content is most important for you. It's why you're so addicted to Facebook, because when you go in there, you get shit that you like. That's very important. If you did it, you wouldn't come back every single day to check your Facebook.
I think they have a trademark on that phrase. Shit that you like.
So the first thing that you need to think about is really how are you gauging that community, right? That's step one. You're taking a look at your engagement rates, what kind of content that you're putting out there. And then you should look organically in what people are sharing, right? So what's most interesting to your audience as a brand? So we work with The Body Shop. There's a great example. We've enabled their social site so people can go in there and actually share through our functionality. We know who's sharing. We see the shares of shares. We see all that activity. We see what that results in terms of link clicks back and purchase. And what they were able to discover is that a few of their products are getting shared way more because of provocative and they're cool, people like them, than anything else. And they've totally changed their strategy around those products. So they have a hemp, moisturizing wash, one of these products that everybody was sharing on their page. And what they did is they started to really focus on how can we get the message out more and how can we enable sharing. So they stepped it up on their Facebook page and also created a microsite where people can go and share any aspect about this particular product any way that they want to share it. And they saw a lot of traffic coming back and they saw it resulting in shares. And then they decided, okay, how do we optimize our paid media strategy? We need to focus on what people like and what people are actually interacting with organically through our page. So, then they run an ad campaign, a social ad campaign, and see results that are significantly higher than ad campaigns that they ran in the past. And this goes back to John's point, which is, you really need to start optimizing your own media first, what people are engaging with, before you can even start thinking about optimizing the paid side of social or social and mobile.
I think just to respond to your point, I think if you're dealing with a publisher that has native ads and the opportunity to sort of rely on the production capabilities, that does allow you as a brand or an agency to not have to worry about sort of the mobile strategy. You can think broader, but I think the two things I would argue in terms of mobile strategy is with creative messaging as well as with your post-click experience. So if you're not relying on a publisher to help you with that, that is something you need to be thinking about. If you are putting a ad message in mobile and trying to drive someone to an experience that is not mobile optimized, then you lose. Whether you're trying to get someone to take an action, like we have with a lot of our clients, or you're just trying to get someone to look at a new model of a car, you have to make sure that either it's you've got a WAP page or it's responsive design or something that's going to play well on a small screen. And similarly, from a creative messaging standpoint, the same way you would think about contextual targeting, that you might run a different message on a sports site versus a gossip site. I think if you can take advantage of mobile and have your messaging be customized to where someone's located, what the time of day is, or the content they're consuming, becomes much more relevant. You potentially will get higher conversion rates that way.
I think I agree with what Patrick was saying. Your mobile ad units, if you think about it that way, a tactical point of view, has to be part of the experience. And people love numbers, and we were talking about case studies. So I was talking to AOL the other day as a publisher, and they told me 0.04% typical response rate. And that's got to be crushing as an advertiser, but that's when you get a little tiny banner ad on a mobile phone. So if you can take that content or the advertiser's message and make it part of the experience, you're going to get an entirely different rate. We work with Urban Outfitters, and in a recent campaign, when they put their content as part of the social experience, where you can look at their particular advertisement and get social currency, where you can then do something with your friends or talk to a celebrity, we saw a 56% click-through rate, unheard of in the industry from a social or mobile point of view. So it's all about taking that advertising message and putting it in the experience. I think that's what people need to focus on.
But to me, that click-through rate, which is just typical, and I bet that 0.04%, those are mistaken clicks probably when people are trying to navigate. Why are people selling and buying that product other than the fact that it's highly liquid? And never in history has the fact that a commodity has been liquid been a reason to buy or trade it, right? So to me, it's just a really bad product, and it's just further evidence that people shouldn't be buying them. When I talk to brand advertisers, only 12% of all goods in the entire world are purchased online, 12% of retail goods. That means 88% convert offline somewhere. So effectively what you're trying to do online is move minds. And mid-funnel, you're trying to explain to someone the attributes of a product, why it's interesting, why they should go to their store to buy dog food or soda or even a piece of electronics. So I don't know a possible reason somebody would be buying a 0.04% banner this small at the bottom of the screen.
0.04, by the way, is over double desktop banner.
Well,
so
right.
That's
well,
outstanding.
0.1% is banners on desktops is the benchmark that I have. So 0.04% is half.
I think 0.1 I heard is mobile, 0.02 is desktop. But anyway, they both really suck. Is the point? Just another question I think that's really interesting. A lot of you guys touched on it. Is what is the metric in mobile social? Like, is it Twitter is a cost per engagement, right? So a retweet, a favorite, a response to an ad in Twitter's mobile social ad unit is considered success, right? In other metrics, CTR, right? Ultimately, it's a conversion down the funnel for ROI. But what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, we developed a pretty cool model for social content ROI, which is really simple. It's engagement plus earn that you get from people sharing that piece of content, and then plus any brand lift or sales lift. So I think it's a simple way to think about it. You have to provide value to make people engage and share your things. So that's key to the creative, though, or the message.
I think that a lot of what you'll see in the industry is always about trying to value something. What it's really doing is just putting a cost to it. Like the average used to be, what's the value of a Facebook fan? What's the value of mobile social? I mean, it's what you do with it. It's going to differ depending on who your clients are. I think from our standpoint as an agency, we try and be transparent with publishing partners and saying, one, this is what our end goal is in terms of a metric, but then this is also our cost threshold where it doesn't make sense for us to pay anymore. So I would hate to have a 0.04, 0.0 anything, but if it makes sense from a financial standpoint, then that's fine. I mean, yeah, it's out there. A lot of people are seeing it and not engaging with it, but those people are still seeing it, and if it still leads to a conversion that gets me to a cost per that is revenue positive, then.
But there's no evidence that people are seeing it. I mean, that really is the problem. I mean, the whole idea of the brand value of the banner is dubious at best. The brand lift studies that people do with banners, they see in the best case scenario, they'll see 20 or 30% lift. When you do a social advertising campaign and you do content exposures, you'll get lifts of 100, 150%. We've seen that in our work with GE and Virgin and Microsoft and other advertisers. Facebook has done it in their studies. You're not even getting the lift off of those units that you would ideally want to get.
Yeah, I think the challenge is cost for the time and the money resources that it takes to do a good native ad campaign like what you guys would do. It's challenging unless you've got a brand that's got budgets to fund it. So I think that's where banners often win. It's easier, lower cost. Not saying it's better, but that becomes the default sort of knee-jerk solution.
Yeah, I don't think it should be I was going to say the problem is that you're not connecting with the customers as well, right? So that's something that's really important. And I like your model. I mean, I would call it all engagement, including the earned and all of the likes, comments, everything. I really think that that's going to be the measure, right? Because when mobile and desktop converge, you just have engagement, right? What is your engagement rate for your audience? How much of that audience are you actually reaching? Those become the biggest measures. So it goes back to just engagement measures instead of the CPC and all the traditional ad metrics.
Yeah, it shouldn't really be a debate of ad units versus not ad units, but I think what everybody's saying, which makes a ton of sense, is that brands have to work harder in this new world of social mobile because you've got to provide some value to the user, and especially on mobile because you have a split second of time with somebody. So you can have a really dynamic ad unit that expands and has a ton of content and shareability in it that's just as valuable as an in-stream type ad unit. But the key is that the brand provides content and some kind of value that people want to engage with.
Yeah, the other point that I think Steiny made is can I call you Steiny? But I am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with Patrick. I don't think that those expanding ad units. I don't think anybody likes an expanding ad unit. And I won't even talk about. I won't even talk my own book. I'll talk Facebook's book or Twitter's book. Those are more engaging, better units. They're in-stream. The Facebook mobile units have click-through engagement rates that are anywhere from 150 to 400% what they are on desktop. It's the right unit. Nobody wants a big flash thing overtaking their screen, no matter how much content it's got on their mobile phone. I mean, does anybody in the room want that?
Well, we work in the ad business, so somebody wants it over there. Can you stand up?
You obviously work for a mobile rich media firm.
Can you please come forward?
We work in the ad business, so we know those are ad units. I think a typical user, I mean, if you think about a mobile ad on a smartphone, it's about 1/6 of the screen's real estate. So I'm not suggesting that the best thing to do is have that explode and shut down your whole OS. But what I am saying is if you have 1/6 of the screen and you can provide value, it's just as valuable as an in-stream ad.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, Media Post released this thing last week. 40% of mobile ads, mobile banners, 40% of those clicks are accidental. Right? Because your thumb is like 10 times the size. And if you have fat thumbs, you're screwed. Right? In terms of clicking on mobile apps. So
there could be a combination of the two, is like using the in-stream native units as that's the push, and then having someone opt into a more immersive experience. So if it's a retailer or whoever saying we've got a new line of clothing, click here to see it now. That can be a way to mix the two, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, there's still a lot of investment there from a creative standpoint to build those types of apps.
So I want to talk dollars. So this year, projected, roughly speaking, a little bit over $2 billion dollars spent in the U.S. on mobile advertising in general. Over half of that is search, of which Google pretty much owns. And sorry, Yahoo. Yahoo's one. Sorry, but can I get an iPhone? So what are the budgets like for this stuff? Is it still experimental? Is it still a test? And specifically mobile social. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the sweet spot is trying to blend it with things that are typically bought. So, we are working on as many seamless cross PC and mobile buys in mobile social as we can, because it doesn't cause a lot of disruption or take a lot of selling. So from that point of view, I think it's a really easy on-ramp for brands.
I think if I asked a client what their mobile social budget was, my head might explode. Mobile and social, this new mobile social merging is on a whole nother level. But we were talking before, I think there are still a lot of brands that have both of those categories as line items on their budget and are saying, I went in and sold in 10% of my digital budget to test mobile. And it goes back to what you were saying, it's like, okay, now you're sort of forced into creating this mobile strategy. So, we always try and sell web while thinking about that post-click experience and then testing mobile as a subsegment, whether it's search, whether it's display, whether it's something else.
When you work with BuzzFeed, you buy social. We don't distinguish between our native store units on mobile or desktop. You just buy social, and I think that's really part of being a good doctor, right? You go to your doctor and you say, I want antibiotics. A bad doctor gives you antibiotics. A good doctor says, let me look at your throat. You don't need antibiotics. You just need a hot cup of tea, right? So when someone comes to me with their line items and they've got their mobile test budget and they've got their desktop budget, we, politely, but we try to be a doctor and say, it's all the web, it's all sharing. This is where the activity and engagement is. Let's optimize for performance where we're getting the most engagement. Let's just do it all together as one unit. And that's been effective. I think too much of the industry is being bad doctors. Units that get 40% mistaken click-through rates, those units shouldn't be sold, or they shouldn't even be positioned in ways that they can do that.
So is BuzzFeed going into the business of selling antibiotics? Is that what you're saying?
And just to add, that's how Facebook and Twitter have grown their mobile so quickly, is that they've made it one buy, easy, same as you buy the desktop.
Yeah, and regardless of what the budgets are client by client, we know that it's increasing, and it's increasing significantly. So I think Facebook's going to do 72 million out of their 4.5 billion in their mobile ad units this year, and then next year they expect it to go closer to 400 million, right? So the increase and that's just on the mobile social piece, right? It's strictly mobile ads that are going out through the Facebook platform. And then if you look at the trend over the next 5 years, you're looking at in social ads, it shows social ads in general, $5.5 billion business today. By 2016, going up to a $42 billion business, actually displace it, or going above display, which is going to be around flat, like 30 billion to 30 billion over the next 5 years. So that's kind of a significant trend to pay attention to if you're spending dollars on ads.
I think the integration of data is also going to be important as usage of mobile starts to eclipse desktop, and we think about a web experience. Being able to track exposures and frequency and user journey across mobile and desktop is going to be really important, because that is just going to lead to more waste of where you're just hitting people with the same creative or the same person 100 times without any sense of where you've reached them previously. So I think that's something that the industry hopefully is moving towards, to be able to track that and get better reporting. Because I think there's probably a lot of people that are doing buys and don't even realize that a percentage of their impressions are being served on mobile. It's just, Facebook being one of them, it's just because they've got inventory there and they can serve it, so they do, and a lot of times people aren't even looking at the report.
You want to find out how to target the people with fat thumbs.
Exactly. So where in the funnel, what are some of the use cases? I hear a lot of branding examples, right? And oftentimes when a new kind of ad set comes out or a new niche ad unit comes out, it grabs a lot of brand dollars. But are we looking at, I know MJ CRM is probably high on your list, but DR, brand dollars, what other stuff are you seeing, or is it primarily in the $3 buckets?
I think the question is the wrong question, because this is a big misconception, is people think branding is bad and direct response is good, right? That's always the continuum. But so little commerce is actually contracted in a direct response fashion. It's just a much smaller part of the pie. When you look at eMarketer's report about advertising, it's like $40 billion display. Direct response is like, I think like $1 billion out of that or something like that online. People just don't buy that much stuff online. People don't buy anything on television. People don't buy anything on newspaper. People typically do not buy stuff through media. So that's why you hear so many more people talking about kind of branding with regard to new technology. We're ultimately replacing television.
I don't think branding's bad.
I mean, you have people. I mean, how many times you have a client come to you and they're like selling like a car or something, or they're selling like soda, and they say, okay, well, we really want to be able to do conversion tracking and see this convert. And what? Someone's going to buy a car through an ad? I mean, who buys cars online?
Yeah, no, I mean, good point. But here, here's maybe an interesting analog. On desktop today, right, view pixels are pretty prevalent. So you see an ad for Pizza Hut, you might not click on it. Tomorrow you go to Pizza Hut's website, and maybe that ad now can own the attribution for that sale or part of it, right? The big problem in mobile is obviously with iOS, the new IFA, XUDID, you can't do that, right? So ultimately, what does that mean?
It means it's very similar to television. It means you need to do the same survey methodologies that politics, you guys have been doing forever. The studies aren't perfect, but I think that between iOS, between the devices, between Do Not Track, between what Congress is doing, full funnel attribution of cookies, I think it's a huge waste of time because I think it's going to basically be outlawed in a pretty short period of time, if not made technically impossible.
It makes it easier for us, by the way, as marketers.
There is an advantage in mobile, though, that no one's figured out yet, which is the fact that odds are you have your mobile device with you when you're conducting that purchase in those offline purchases. So some folks are trying to connect the dots, and I think that's a big opportunity to prove with true ROI.
Should we go for questions?
You can keep going if you want. If you have questions, raise your hand. But okay, so
We have some questions. Very cognizant of the cocktail hour
And
starting
speaking of
soon.
sharing, you guys have to now share your mic with John Steinberg, so please be nice about it. So, and please give your name and title.
Sure.
Or,
Jason Scholweis. I work for Yahoo on the social team. But my question is for everybody. How do you view the importance of location GPS in the intersection of social and mobile?
I can tell you that I think advertising is extremely important. I'm actually from Vancouver. Our company's Canadian-based. And when I talk to agencies and advertising in Canada, they don't want U.S. impressions on phones and vice versa. And we work a lot with the music space for content, and these are global stars. And Justin Bieber tweets, it's heard around the world. So there's a great deal of concern about where is that phone, what country, what state is it in, and the big tier one advertisers are all country managers. So the Dove manager, because there's one for Canada, there's one for the U.S., there's one for Mexico, and they don't want their dollars cross-pollinating the other guy's campaign. So they're very concerned about where that phone is. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, for us it's huge. Whether it's a political client or a nonprofit, even if it's a national organization, they have the same thing, different revenue attribution for different states, different issues or pieces of legislation. So to have a message running in California about an Idaho ballot initiative is obviously not a good thing.
And then when you get back to thinking about how you optimize your audience and how you actually get engagement out of your audience, and you may have an audience that's across the globe or across the United States. On Facebook, we see engagement rates that are much higher when ads are targeted to something that's relevant to them and their location. So it's part of building up the engagement with your audience and actually forming relationships with them is targeting content that's relevant. So that's extremely important as well when you start to build the foundation in social.
okay.
My name is Greg Wood. I'm at Canisius College, Buffalo, New York. I'm curious how complicated the media buy is for social mobile. I know for myself, most of the social apps, or most of the time I access social on my mobile devices with third-party apps. So are agencies, buying directly from Facebook, Twitter, whatever the social service is, or are they spending the money on the third-party apps? And if so, is that a real fragmented situation? How is that all managed?
We usually buy the majority direct just because of scale and budgetary reasons. Twitter, I mean, I think there's a lot more opportunity there in terms of ad units that are on the third-party apps. Facebook, obviously, is Facebook. Social gaming and those types of social apps, I think there's a lot of scale there. But that's all being aggregated through networks. So in terms of buying, usually it's either through networks or directly through the actual social platforms. I haven't seen anything that's showing that like Uber or I don't even know, Twitter and Echo Phone, I don't know how they're divided up, but I haven't seen anything showing that like results on the one flow the other out of the water.
There's also a lot of infrastructure and plumbing that's being built right now to be able to buy literally in the mobile exchange. So for example, folks can use AppNexus to buy, or a DSP to buy desktop remnant. On mobile, there's very few companies right now in that space. So MoPub is one, NextEdge is another one. And they're just starting to grow, so they're nowhere near kind of what the web DSPs are. But once they're there, it'll allow you to access billions of impressions across any app, right, and target that. I'd say we're probably a good year away from that really being mature.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, one question I've been kind of curious about, these allegedly high engagement rates with mobile ads, and we went through the fat thumb theory, of why click-through rates are high. I also just wonder if there's any kind of novelty thing that, like what we saw, way back when with banner ads, where like, people click because they can. I mean, I guess I'm a little skeptical that the ads by and large are more engaging, partly because I sometimes doubt there are a lot of advertisers who just aren't that good at engagement in digital form. So I'm sorry to just rain on it, but I just kind of wonder other reasons why the click-through rates might be high that won't hold up over time, I guess is a better way to put it.
Well, we're also talking about the format too. So, when we're talking about extremely low click-through rates, we're talking about banners on mobile where it's a really bad experience and doesn't even make sense, right? Versus a social ad that you're getting through Facebook, which is very relevant and probably coming from a brand that you like already, which makes more sense, right? And you're looking through your feed to get the nuggets of information that you want to know about your friends and the brands that you love on Facebook, and then you get an ad that's fully integrated and makes sense and is more relevant to you. I think that's the magic of the social ads and why we're seeing the high click-through rates that we're seeing in social ads. The format's completely different, how you consume it's completely different, and it's more relevant.
I would feel very sad if the general population was clicking on mobile ads because of the novelty. I mean, I think if someone...
It's happened before, that's all I can say.
If someone is consuming content on their mobile device, I'm hoping that they're savvy enough to know what is and isn't that. I think, I don't know what the breakout is between apps and content pages, but I think probably in social gaming and those types of environments, there might be more of just like people clicking on stuff because there's like things flying around and they don't know what the hell they're doing.
It's sort of an alternate version of the fat thumb theory, right?
Yeah, I guess so. We'll go back to that. But I don't know. I don't think it's the novelty. I think it is, a lot of the unit just being in an odd place and people trying to get to content and accidentally clicking.
Yeah, what's the difference in click-through rates on newsfeed ads on desktop versus mobile if you're on Facebook? Does anybody know? That's a quick quiz question. Okay.
Yeah, so in newsfeed on desktop, you're looking at anywhere from getting a 2% click-through rate. On mobile, it's even higher. So people say that it's 150% higher. So people say one study from TVG Digital put it at like 400% higher.
Yeah.
It's a much more confined experience. People who are on mobile tend to be in what I call like a kismet state of mind. They're looking to they have downtime. They're looking to explore different kinds of things. They're not in their home, bothered with family stuff or at work trying to crank through tasks. So it's kind of the ideal state of mind. It's like the state of mind that somebody's in when they're watching television. And if you put a good commercial in front of them, there's a chance that they'll recall it. If you put the car driving down the road and say 0% APR financing, they're going to tune out.
So that does support, though, the theory that you should think about mobile differently than you think about other types of advertising, because you've got this moment of kismet, euphoria. So as a brand, you've got to provide some kind of quick value to the user. So I think content and native type ads tend to do that in a quick way.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the best ways I've heard of putting that ever. Thank you, John. So, do we have any other questions? Okay, well, give our panelists a round of applause. I'm going to go buy a car with my phone now, so, I'm going to go buy a car with my phone and then she'll get a drink. So, cocktails are on, which floor are we on? It's on the 5th floor. We're on 7th. Thanks. So, thank you, everybody.